Australia is coming back. Yeah. Team Australia at its best, a nation to be proud of.
G'day. Are you part of Team Australia? Do you make French submarines? Are you a multinational fossil fuel company? A property developer? In the banking sector perhaps? If so, you are part of Team Australia. Or are you in the university sector? Are you homeless? Are you underemployed? Or do you work for the ABC? If so, sorry, you're not part of Team Australia. This is the Team Australia budget. It's the donors' budget. Let's have a quick run through. $10 billion infrastructure spend, that goes to large corporations. Defence, $44 billion for defence, up 15% on the prior year. That goes to multinational foreign weapons makers. Unis, they're not part of Team Australia. Their budget was axed by 8%. TAFE spending axed by 24%. Now there's a lot of money, billions of dollars for aged care in this budget, so you might be forgiven for thinking that old people themselves are on Team Australia. The $1 billion aged care handout, that doesn't actually go to the aged, it goes to intermediaries, the aged care operators or the providers, so much so that Estia Health, one of these operators, as a result of the government's aged care spending, their profits have been revised upwards by 57% as a result of all this new money flowing in. Little oversight here to addressing the systemic problems of aged care, regulation, oversight, transparency. Plenty of cash though for the operators. Now how about the biggest existential threat to humanity? Climate change. It did get a mention in the budget once. $1.2 billion to low emissions technology, not to renewables. $566 million to establish international partnerships on practical low emissions projects. So that money will flow to foreign corporations as well. $264 million to carbon capture and storage, which doesn't work because it's not commercially viable. $60 million to the National Soil Carbon Innovation Challenge to reduce emissions from livestock. $317 million to help business and industry lower their emissions by supporting more voluntary action and helping businesses reduce their energy use. Money to business again. Then there's this one. The government is taking decisive action to support local oil refineries as part of our commitment to jobs and Australia's long-term fuel security. That's money for the biggest oil companies in the world. Now it's the same deal in the property sector. Let's have a look at housing. There's a couple of measures here. One is allowing first homeowners to dig into their super and take $50,000 out of their super. The government is sponsoring a transfer of wealth from the superannuation system, which it doesn't like because it can't control their investment decisions, across to the housing sector. And the other measure is reducing lending criteria, making it easier for people to buy a home and also to fall into a debt trap should interest rates rise. Overall, nothing for renters, but they're propping up the house market. So this is, yet again, a budget for big business. What do small businesses get then? Because these guys are heartland Liberal voters. They get cheap labour. We now have the gig economy. Some people may have to work 2 or 3 jobs in the gig economy to make a living. Underemployment is rife. Wage growth is a serious problem for this government, and there's not much fundamental reform to meet this immense challenge for the future. A challenge which will see inequality continue to burgeon in Australia. Unfortunately, this is top down, not bottom up. It's trickle down. And the final thing here is if you look at the budget estimates, workers are going to have to shoulder more of the tax burden in future. 52% of the tax burden is the forecast in the coming years. Why is that? Because corporations won't be paying as much. That's the assumption, that corporate tax payments are languishing. And as you've seen from our series of What's the Scam, some of the biggest companies in the world operating in this country are paying absolutely zero in income tax and have been doing it for years. Team Australia, it's a bit like the Prime Minister's 11. It's hand-picked. But don't worry, if you're not on Team Australia, you're helping to finance the match. You might not be involved in it, but you're helping to finance the foreign defence contractors, the multinational fossil fuel corporations, and of course property developers and bankers. Congratulations. Comment below on what budget measures you would have liked to have seen. perhaps an allocation for a federal anti-corruption commission. Here at Michael West Media, we're not part of Team Australia, unfortunately. We're funded by you, and we're not a large multinational corporation. We pay tax. So thank you very much for your support.